Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and berries, it's me, Bradley G, here in Friendly Fridley, and welcome to Synergy Cafe. I'm also known as MagicBrad, as you can see right here. The man, the myth, the legend in my own mind. And guess who I've got? I've got my co-host and new friend. His name is Mark, and the last name is Light. And I'm going to go ahead and get him in the green room. He's in there enjoying some of our complimentary free digital hors d'oeuvres in the green room. And stay tuned. I'll be right back. There he is, Mr. Mark. How you doing, buddy?
I am fantastic. The digital hors d'oeuvres just hits you a little bit differently sensory than the culinary ones do.
It is, and it's very low cal,
Yeah,
gluten
yeah,
free.
that everything's got its upside, right?
That's right. So today, this is fun. This is our inaugural little gathering here, and we're doing it in the Synergy Cafe studios. But the topic is about our initial topic here is going to be about resilience, but it's also about body, mind, and spirit. And we got this little graphic that somebody might have seen already: the mind, body, spirit, resilience, healing at the speed of light. Because you've got a story to tell, and it's kind of fascinating. I was telling you earlier that in my life, I've kind of had an easy life. I haven't no silver spoon in the mouth or anything, but I've been healthy. I haven't broken any bones, and I haven't really, other than when I was a child, I had a telescopic intestine, so I did that in the hospital. But I haven't had any. I don't have a story.
Well, just like what we talked about before we went live, Brad, be careful what you wish for.
I'm not wishing. I'm
Um,
very grateful for my blessed health.
no, I'm excited about this. It does kind of have a little bit of a Groundhog Day feel to it because we're saying this is the very first time we're doing this, but really that's not totally the case. But to your point, um, I was having a conversation right before Christmas time when I thought my outlook was quite a bit different than it now is. And I was telling a really good friend of mine that had been a friend of mine or has been a friend of mine since high school. And he had an incredibly rough childhood when he and I were first getting to know one another. And I said, Bill, I said, my favorite thing about my situation is I can now look you in the eye and say, I've had it tough as well. And so there is something to be said for having that story to tell, which most of those stories come from adversity. And so to that extent, I'm human. I look for comfort like everybody else, but at the same time, I go, well, hell, if my life has been a series of uncomfortable situations, that's where the good stories come from. So, and I've certainly got my share of them and one large one. So, yeah.
Well, I think especially nowadays with social media, you end up seeing all these people that are talking about their glamorous life because they're posting their trip to Cancun and walking on the beach, and everybody thinks, well, how come I can't afford to go to Cancun? And you see all this good stuff happening to other people. People tend to get a little depressed, if you will. So I think it's good if you end up hearing someone's other authentic story. They go, oh my God, I guess I don't have it as bad as I thought I did. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and not only that, Brad, but I would wager to say that the beauty of life doesn't come from those real cool Cancun experiences. The beauty of life comes from the adversity and the stories that come from it, the experiences that come from it, uh, and yeah, I mean, when you look back on your life, you're sitting down and I've got one college buddy that called them the front porch conversations. When you have those front porch conversations, it's never the good times, it's never those Cancun trips, the cruises, the fancy stuff that you talk about and you remember fondly. It's those more difficult, more uncomfortable times in life that kind of have a way of creating some of the best stories, the best memories. There's a lot of different ways we can talk about it, but it's the journey that really adds kind of the cool stuff to your life. I mean, obviously you got to have all that fun as well, or ideally, but when it comes to the the memories, they tend to come from the not so easy times.
Yeah, and today we're going to kind of talk. I know you got other topics. We're going to talk a little bit about resilience.
Hmm.
And to me, it's kind of like resilience is almost getting up again after you've been knocked down 3 times. You get up the fourth time,
Yeah.
getting up more times and you fall down.
Hmm.
Just to kind of toughen it out. And it makes you stronger in a lot of different ways, your body, mind, and spirit, what you're talking about. You might be physically strong, but you might not be mentally strong. In fact, my martial arts background shows me that when you can kind of take a person's heart, all of a sudden they don't feel so confident. And it isn't that they weren't tough or fast, it's just that they lost the spirit.
Yeah. And for me, resilience isn't so much getting through the difficulty or getting back to baseline. If resilience, I think, is done correctly, it or if the skill has been developed correctly is probably a better way to say it. Resilience should make you a better person than you were prior to the getting knocked down. It should, the getting knocked down part should actually make you stronger. And in most cases, it does. But you have to
As
be,
we're,
I think, intentional about it.
as we're kind of building this out, because for those that don't know, we're looking to do these on a regular basis and get momentum going on that. And there's something that you did a while back with your bicycle ride that definitely required some resilience. And then you had mentioned earlier that you sort of had a method of doing it in bite-sized pieces, which makes it a little easier to not quit.
Yeah. So, well, I would first of all say, Brad, that the bike ride itself was the resilience, because the bike ride started off by me first getting on a bike, and I got on that bike as a way to get strong again after a year-long illness with pancreatitis. And so I went out and bought a bike and decided to start riding it to get back. Fitness has always been a thing of mine, and it's kind of funny because to transition into the next thing that you sort of teed me up for is when I first started riding at the age of like 42 at the time. I'd get 5 miles from home and think, boy, I better turn around because I'm going to fall right off the face of the earth if I get too far away from home. And it's so funny how the comfort level expands. But yeah, one of the things I will say is I've got a dirty little secret. I did ride a bicycle 10 years ago in 2016. I rode a bicycle completely across the US. It was my 15 minutes of fame. So many cool things. It's like my signature, up to now, my signature moment in life. Only my dirty little secret is I'm not capable of riding a bike across the United States. What I was capable of doing was waking up every morning at, say, 6:30, 6 o'clock, whatever that was. I'd have breakfast and then plan where I was going to ride to have lunch. And I'd ride there and have lunch. And at lunch, I'd figure out where I was going to ride to have dinner and sleep that night. And I'd do that. And I just repeated that process 60 times in a row. And I found myself going from San Diego, California, all the way to St. Augustine, Florida on a bicycle. But had I set the goal and just focused on nothing but getting across the US, I got to tell you, I would have quit probably no later than the second day, because it would have
Sure.
overwhelmed.
Second day,
And
I would
so,
just get tired on the first day and go, what the hell am I doing?
right,
You
right.
literally had the carrot and the stick where you had your next meal was dangling in front of you.
Well, and that was, hey, I'll tell you what, there's something to be said for what we're talking about here with resilience and body, mind, spirit. One of the things, and it didn't take me very long to self-reflect on this point, was, it was the most beautiful 2 months of my entire life, and I don't think I can ever do anything to trump that. And there was so many reasons. Yeah, I was being validated, so many people telling me how great I was. It was playing out on social media, and that was certainly great. I'm human after all. But the most beautiful part about that was that, because of the nature of what I was doing, I had to live in the moment. I couldn't worry about anything that happened previously, yesterday, 10, 15 minutes ago. I had to live for the day. and figure out how to get through each day all on its own. And in our culture, that's a pretty rare thing to be able to do, is live in the moment. Most of us, especially as Americans, we're caught up worrying about what's going to happen 40 years from now or 20 years from now. I get caught up on ruminating over shit that happened in my childhood or early adulthood or yesterday. And living in the moment is probably one of the most powerful things you can do. And yet, weirdly, it's like almost impossible for most of us to do. We find
It's
it
a
that way.
moving target. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. And it lasts about this long.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds great, but boy, oh boy, is it tough to do, to actually live in the present. And, so if you can find things that cause you to live in the present, yeah, that's fantastic. But resilience, so I use the word resilience interchangeably with healing now that I've met you and we've talked about the word healing so much, but I use the word resilience also interchangeably with mental toughness, confidence, positive mindset, all of those things. And just like on that, what is it, that the screen that you showed that had both of our pictures here, whatever you call that thing. I'm not as familiar with the terminology,
It's
but
called a
it's
thumbnail, I
the
guess. You could call it
thumbnail.
a
Thank you.
thumbnail. That
The
right there.
thumbnail. I should know that. There you go. Up at the top where it says body, mind, spirit. Look, as was chapter 1 of my book, right after the foreword, the preface, and the introduction, chapter 1 of my book is entitled, it's a mind, body, spirit thing. But the book spent most of the book in the mind side of it, or the mind part of it. But if you picture a Venn diagram, body, mind, spirit, if you are nurturing and feeding properly all three of those, I think you're going to naturally become more resilient, more mentally tough individual. And the truth of the matter is, between each of those, again, I'm still operating off of the Venn diagram sort of a visual here. The lines definitely blur between all three of them, because
Yeah.
really, when you nurture the body, or maybe another way to say it, good luck having a really sound mind and spirit if you let your body go.
Yeah.
And all of that works vice versa. So the truth of them, all of them are as interlocked as anything can be. And when you feed one, you're feeding the other. And if you starve one, you're probably starving the others. So
Going back to the past, present, and future thing, as you were doing that bicycle trip, did you ever, like, at one of the destinations just had a really good time, and then when you left, it kind of tried to pull you back because you wanted to enjoy that moment that is gone now?
almost every day,
Really?
almost every day, Brad. And the reason I say that is, it was the people.
That's what I
I
mean. You had such a good time. I kind of like to go back and enjoy that moment. Yeah.
Well, I've been able to, and as far as the relationships, the friendships that I made along the way, and they're very deep, lifelong friendships, and a lot of those people became friends with one another. But I don't know if you're trying to goad me into tipping my hat on some future plans here or not. But I have been, well, I'll just say it like this. Ever since completing that journey, which the completion day will stay burned in my mind forever, November 17th, 2016, all I've ever wanted to do is do it again. And it's surprising how difficult that's been to do that again. Now, that was for a cause, and so I wouldn't want to do it again without doing it for a cause.
Mhm.
So the way I'm gonna go ahead and just lay my cards out a little bit here. I have plans, by the way, for later this year, on what I'm going to do on a bicycle. But any old schmuck at the age of 50 can ride a bike all the way across the U.S. That's how old I was. How many schmucks can do it at the age of 61, where they've survived stage 4 cancer? I'm trying to be that schmuck. I was the first schmuck before, and I'm trying to be that second schmuck. So I currently have, and I can't even really call it a goal, air quote goal at this point. It's more of a dream and a vision, but this is where things like that start. In 2027, in the fall of 2027, I am planning toward recreating that cross-country bicycle ride from 2016, the bicycle ride that became the Magic Carpet Ride. So
Are
thank
you
you very
set
much.
in doing it from the same destination? So, starting point and finish point?
I want to retrace and that's been a source of a lot of pondering. Do I want to try a different route, or do I want to go the same route as before? I want to largely cover trace the exact same steps of 2016, which took me from San Diego through Phoenix down to Tucson, Las Cruces, El Paso, Austin, Baton Rouge, that, and I could just go down the list there. But all of the people that I met along the way in that 2016 journey, so many of them have become some of my closest friends. And like I said a minute ago, a lot of them became friends with one another. And it's a little bit of an opportunity for me to revisit some of the greatest memories that I've ever created and some of the most amazing people, and just sort of, how many opportunities in life do you get to do the most epic thing you've ever done in your life? Do it again.
Well, thinking about it from a marketing point, like we had talked earlier about, where you're going to go and different ideas. Like you're in Indianapolis, so there's the Indy 500. I started my marketing strategy brain started thinking all these other things, but it makes a lot of sense that you've already kind of established a groove across the southern United States. So why not lay some pavement over the top of that? And you got all the relationships. They're going to be welcoming you as you come along because they know your schedule. They know where you're probably going to stop. And yeah, let's stop at that coffee shop. They got a great bagel there. I want to. And now you've already got the audience, and it makes me kind of excited to see that this has already been done before. It's just icing on the cake now.
Well, way to work in the racing references there, by the way, the groove and the pavement. And I just kept waiting for the next one to come through, Brad. But yeah, it's there's a lot of that, of course. And I'm not going to say anything about this part of it, not just yet anyway, because there's got to be some things that need to fall into place for me to divulge the who and the what and all that kind of stuff. But this will be done for a cause once again, just like the one in 2016. And yeah, this is the first, I guess, that I'm publicly announcing it. But on the other hand, I also have to say, I've announced things like this before that didn't end up coming to be. So I'm putting myself a little bit out there, because last time I will say that I got myself prepared over a lot of years really to do that. And yet at the start of the ride, when I rode away from the Pacific Ocean in San Diego, it was one of the scariest moments of my life, because I had a small group of people, blowing kisses and waving bye to me and whatnot. And I thought to myself, man, if something happens, you got to die, because you can't give up. You can't quit with all these people watching. And there was quite a few people on social media that were paying attention. And so that will come back again.
Well, that's where, we can put it out there now that if there's anybody that wants to help support this, anybody that's got some philanthropic sponsorship type of ideas in their head. And I think I told you about my friend Kenny Rogers. He did a big bicycle trip, and he was in Wisconsin, and him and his buddy refused to cross the Wisconsin-Minnesota border until they raised more money. I think it was for Make-A-Wish or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And that was a pretty cool little strategy where they kind of made it almost to the end, and they didn't have enough money, so they started doing a little thing. So we're not coming across until people start donating.
I like it.
It was a cause-based thing too.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. But yeah, what is going to happen this year, and again, I haven't, the people close to me know about this, but there's a little bit of a story behind it, and I'm not sure how much I should really get into it today. But in October, I'm living one of my dreams, and that is riding. The reason I'm doing that, I'm riding a bicycle around Lake Tahoe out in the Nevada-California border. First of all, I'd never been to Lake Tahoe, so I'm getting to live a dream to even go there, and that was always a place I wanted to go. But what makes that special? It's 70 miles, 72 miles, I think exactly, and it's about 4,000 feet of climbing, which that part is intimidating. But what makes that special for me is it wasn't 4 months ago yet that I was considering selling off all of my biking gear, my bikes and everything else, because I didn't think I'd ever really be on the saddle of a bike again. I was at that point stage 4 cancer, and I had ceased all treatment, and things were not looking exactly optimistic for me to even survive 2026. And I've had sort of a miracle. We're talking resilience here. I had what can only be described as a miraculous moment, because I went in right before Christmas time, and for a surgery that I kind of considered to be rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. It was a necessary surgery, but I didn't consider it to be even close to a life-saving thing. And even that didn't go as planned, and there were some serious complications, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to get out of the hospital. Well, anyway, I did make it out, and only to find out, I had considered going back on treatment after that hospital experience, and then I find out that I'm cancer free, and I had been told I was cancer free, but this time I actually feel physically and mentally cancer free. Now I do get scanned on Friday, so we'll fingers crossed that it stays that way. But I have made, well, as my youngest daughter says, hey, if you were a cat, Dad, you would be on life number 27 right now. But I have managed to bounce back in a lot of ways. And so I'm living a dream that I didn't think a few months ago was ever going to be even possible. And I'll be riding a bicycle around Lake Tahoe. And so, yeah, that's something I'm going to be talking about pretty vocally here in the coming weeks and months, but working very hard to make that happen as well.
Well, let me do a little shameless plug for you here, because this is how you get a hold of you. Right underneath there, the marklightgroup.com. That's your website, and you got a phone number on there?
Yeah, my direct line is area code 210-816-5544.
But it's on the website there too, right?
It is also on the website. If you go down to the contact information, my email address, my phone number. Yeah, but I do appreciate the shameless plug, particularly when it relates to my website, Brad.
It's having someone else do it for you, so it doesn't feel like you're being selfish.
It's still just as selfish. It just doesn't feel like it. And so I appreciate that.
And then I wanted to throw something else out. Again, this is right now about resilience. Now, as a speaker, because you're doing the speaking from a stage kind of thing, you have other topics that you are going to talk about eventually too, right? Not just resilience.
Yeah. Well, they're all centered kind of around resilience. I have, well, when you get right down to it, Brad, I've got infinite topics I can talk about and life experiences and that type of thing. But I have actually two talks. One is I've got a partner, Brian Liturgia, a 3-time Olympian, who is a partner in a couple of different ventures. He and I are going to team up and do a talk on resilience. So we've got that one, but then I have a solo talk that I call my 3 Ps of resilience, which are push, process, improve, and then add to that I've got, it's the 3 Ps of financial resilience, which are centered around the fact that for 20 years, most of my adult life, I was a financial advisor. And then I was also the financial advisor that made my living by giving people advice on how to protect themselves from disasters. And among those disasters were health-related disasters, which hit me. I didn't follow any of my own advice. And so it wasn't a problem with knowledge. I talk about how to protect oneself from whether it's health-related, accident-related, anything, how to protect oneself from financial disasters. And I'm not just talking about having the right insurances and all that boring stuff. I'm talking about some things that a lot of times people's financial advisors wouldn't even know, but these are conversations they can bring up with their financial advisor. So I've got the couple of talks on or a number of different things I could talk about in resilience. And then the fourth, and I've got the financial resilience talk that I do. And then the fourth is one that's geared strictly for salespeople, how to flip the script and become more successful in sales. Sales is, I mean, from a professional point of view, there is not a subset of the professional population where resilience becomes a bigger deal, in my opinion, than that of professional salespeople. Their entire life centered around getting knocked down, failing many times. To be successful in sales, you've got to fail a lot. So your entire life involves the picking yourself up after being knocked down. But at the same time, one of the most vulnerable positions a salesperson can find themselves in is after they've been successful, because the tendency there is to stop doing all of the things that made you successful to begin with.
Oh,
And
sure.
I am as guilty, in fact, more guilty than anybody else in that regard. So, yeah, I talk about flipping the script and because, when you get right down to it, Brad, sales is nothing more than an uncomfortable conversation. An uncomfortable conversation, but it's uncomfortable for the buyer, it's uncomfortable for the seller, because of the fact that we, as I hesitate to say as Americans, because I think there's everybody in the world loves to buy, we hate to be sold. And so when you put those two concepts together, the uncomfortable conversation and the dichotomy of loving to buy but hating to be sold, it's just a matter of teaching people, first of all, to get out of their own way. I am the world's worst about getting in my own way and whatnot, and just bridging that gap and turning the conversation into a more functional and certainly a more comfortable conversation for all involved.
I used to office with a guy that did trade show sales training. He taught exhibitors how to be more effective. And he said, your bottom line is you want to qualify and you just want to say how much money you got and when you're going to give it to me. And you got to soften that up. Like, what was your budget last year? Stuff like that.
There's definitely a technique on how to get people to open up. And that's kind of what I mean about making the conversation more comfortable for all involved, because if it's a comfortable, authentic, real conversation, then people do tend to open up and you find out whether they're actually a good candidate for you or not. And kind of paradoxically, that real, authentic conversation takes an actual skill set to pull off effectively.
Yeah, we experienced that when we're looking for a house. The real estate agent that was in the open house was just too pushy. Why don't you sign this? Why don't you sign that? Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? It was just too pushy.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's see.
Not a fun situation.
28 minutes. We got a couple more minutes before. I like to keep these kind of tight so people can consume them. But is there anything else you want to share about what we might talk about next week? Didn't you say
I have, what's that?
You might find a guest.
I'm working on a guest.
Okay.
I've already mentioned him a little bit, but I'm working on getting a guest on for next week. But in the future, we're going to cover resilience, but from the angle of the mind, body, and spirit. There are all kinds of different, I guess we'll call them counterintuitive topics and subject matters. We'll have a guest on from time to time, but a lot of that time it'll just be you and I kicking around a topic or a subject that is somehow related to the mind, body, spirit, the resilience, healing stuff, if you will. But I'm efforting a guest for next week, a pretty interesting one, to say the very least, and one that he and I have some background together.
Well, excellente. So if you're okay with it, I'll put you back into the green room. And I had my virtual staff in there. They swapped out all the digital hors d'oeuvres, so there's all new stuff.
What if I'm not okay with it, Brad?
Caught
you, didn't I?
What if I'm not okay with you mispronouncing my name?
We're even.
No, you're okay with it. You mean
I'm totally
okay with
okay.
going to the green room? I'm in control here. I can just
I
throw you
love
in.
those. I love those digital hors d'oeuvres.
They're good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to pop you in there that I got a couple commercials I'm going to throw out, and if you want to stick around, we can have some more conversation about future.
Okay. Sounds good.
Oh, there you have it, folks. Mark Light. Ta-da! And here's how you get a hold of him again, by the way. His name is Mark Light. We're going to be talking about resilience, and let's throw this on here too if you want to find him. It's right there. marklightgroup.com. I'm trying to help him with booking some speaking engagements and things of that sort. And then we're just trying to put things out there. We're looking for people that want to work with us on our journey, and you'll get more clear on it. If you want to join us, you can do that. And let me throw one more thing out here. This is something that I'm promoting myself right here. It's called Mailbox Power. I call it a magic marketing tool. And it's a software that allows the user to send out postcards, greeting cards, and personalized gifts. And I just learned a new thing about it last night. If you want to buy lists, you can now not buy lists just from a radius. You can buy lists by going on Google Maps and pinpointing like a building, and you can mail the people inside the building. It's fascinating what you can do with technology nowadays. Anyways, that's my story, Morning Glory. I'm going to sign this one off. And if you want to tune in next week, definitely follow me. You can go to followmagicbrad.com and learn more. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be good, be kind, be nice. And I do mean be nice. Please be nice. Peace.